Okay. So I think today is Friday. We are going to look at the last part of CSS Grid we did with the CSS container, and then we are going to look at the CSS grid items. Understand? Because when you look at the Flexbox, it also has its what Flexbox container and then what flex items. So it's the same thing as this one. This also what has its own what CSS grid container and then CSS grid items. So we finish with the what CSS grid container, and then we are going to look at the CSS grid items, meaning the children. You understand? So if I have to open my VS Code, you can see that here, as I told you the last time, we have what a container, and inside them we have what items. So if we are talking about grid, this container becomes grid container, and the children becomes grid items. So that's why I name each of the classes to do what? Item 1, item 2, up to item 6. You understand? So I link my CSS with this CSS here, right? Okay, so that is simple things here. You already know this. So let me open it with show preview. So this is our div elements, our items. Okay, so let's continue. So in order to turn this into a grid, first of all, what do you normally do? But let me just add some little bit CSS for before we can continue. I think it's better that way. So if I were to go with the container, I'm just going to apply some small CSS so that it will change these things into a nice look. Okay. So maybe we can pick the background color, and then I can use maybe, let me use yellow. Right, so we have yellow of the container. Right? And then I can add some padding. Maybe padding to be, let's say, 20 pixels. Right? Okay, I've had some padding now. And then I move towards to the div. This divs, the children. So I target only one, and then it will affect all of them. So I can start from the container and then go towards the div. The div, right? And then I'll apply, maybe let's apply padding also. Maybe padding of 10 pixels, right? So you see that it has, each of these divs has what? Spaces that's padding from all around, both top, left, right, and then bottom. And then you add background color. Maybe background color is not needed here because I want to show you something. Right? So, okay. So for now, let me just add background color for it now so that I want to show you something. Background color for each. And then I'll add some, maybe let me add border 1 pixels solid. Right? So you see that we have now prepared. You see now, or maybe some color. Okay, this blue is okay. Right? So you see that each box. So this one, this as you see is the what affecting each box. So this box, this box, this box, this box. So you see by default it is what block. That's why it is a div here. Div elements. So it is block, right? And here we didn't apply any grid system or any flexbox to the container. We didn't apply anything. We are just applying the normal what? The normal CSS, that is the background color padding. And here too we apply padding, background color, and border. So nothing has changed now in terms of what? The grid, right? Okay, so now we come here and then what we know, what we did before with the grid. Now we come here and say we are going to apply the grid. But before that, let me just target each and every box for every grid item here, right? And the CSS I use here is what? You see that I said class item 1, class item 2, class item 3. So each number has its own what? Class, right? So I can target each and every one and what? And apply CSS to it. So let me target item 1, come here. Since it is a class, I'll add dot. And then I'll give it a background color. I want the colors to be different so that you see the colors, right? So here I see red. Why is it not affecting? Can you notice the problem? Why this one is not being red? Because I said item 1 to be red. Why is it not red? Can you look at the problem?
The problem?
Okay, the problem is because here I already set the background color of each and every box to be this color. You understand? So if I come here and see the item 1 should have this color, it's not going to be affected. I have to remove this color. So I
First
can
one.
remove the first background color. So now you see that this one has red now. And all the other one has gone, right? Because this one is affecting all of them. So that's why it blocks this one to appear. Okay, so now I've added the color. So now if I'm going to target the other one, the number 2, then I'll say dot item 2, right? And I give it a background color, maybe also green. You see it is so green. Then I come to the third one and said I want the third one to also, which is number 3, item 3, also to have background color. And then I'll give it maybe, I can also say blue, right? And then I'll go the same way. Number 4, background color. And then maybe I can say this color, aqua. We have the 4 for number 5, that's background color. And then I give it what? Maybe it's chocolates, right? And then the last one, which is the item 5, the item 6, and I see background color, and then I give it a which color of okay, maybe the dark orange. Or no, let me give it different color. Right, so I can give it this color, hot pink, right? So now we have colors of each and every. So you see that I targeted this one. See, item 1, item 2, item 3, right? So I apply background color for each and every boxes or say grid item. Well, we understand.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the structure look nice for us to play along with what? With our CSS grid, right? And what we normally do is we target what? The container, right?
Yeah.
We target the container, right? So we said display, right? And we say what? Display what?
Great.
Display grid, right? So now I've told the container that it's now a display grid, right? And now
Yeah.
it just know that this is what display grid, but nothing as what is affected because we didn't apply the column and the rows, right? So we have to apply the columns and the rows. So I don't know whether are you also following me while doing it, because I have something to show you, but no problem. If you are just following, I think it's okay. So
No problem.
display grid, and then what should if I want columns? What property am I going to use?
Columns.
Come again?
You say if you want columns?
Yeah, if I want columns. Now it is only one column, right? You see here it is like this. You see, so like it's just one column like this,
Yeah.
right? So if I want to add more columns, like three columns, let's say I want three columns. What property am I going to use?
Can you use template?
Okay, the
Yeah.
property. You have to notice the name. You have to remember the name, right? You have to remember the name. Grade, it starts with grade. The grade is already there. So if you write grade, if you are using VS Code, immediately you start writing grade, you see it pop-ups. You see here, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't need to memorize the name. Sometimes if you are using a professional or editor, immediately you start typing grade, it knows exactly what you needed. So it gives you a lot of options.
Mm.
You can choose it, you can choose from it. Grid template what? Columns, right?
Yeah.
Okay, then I want three columns. Assuming I want all the columns to be equal,
You
what
use
values am I
auto
going to? We use auto. How many times?
3 times.
Three times. What about if I use repeat? Let me use repeat.
For
Repeat.
the repeat, you just use the numbers.
Let's use the numbers. I have to give two values, right? The
Yeah.
first values is what? It shows how many what times do you want this to add, how many columns you want,
Yeah.
right? So we say we
Yeah.
want three columns, right? So I give
Mm.
three columns. Then I add a comma to separate it, right? And
Yeah.
then the second value is what? Is the what? The size. I mean the width,
This.
right?
Yeah.
So it's the width of each column. So if I want to have an equal width, what value should I use here? And I want it to be responsive. What value should I use here?
You can use maybe 25%.
25%. If you multiply 25% times 3, is it going to be 75?
No, you say,
I'm saying that now you are talking about what? If you have three columns, right? And I say all the three columns, we want them to be equal. And I don't want to use fixed units, maybe pixels. I don't want to use that. I want a value that when I use it, everything here, all of the three columns that I have will have the same what width size.
so you just have to use one value,
Yeah, I
right?
have to use one value. Yeah, the one value will represent the three because the three will multiply the one value, which will make three of the column, and all of them will be equal. So I have only need
Maybe
one value.
33. 33 is the only option, I think.
Yeah, you can use 33%, but 33% definitely there will be one left.
There will be one left.
Right?
Yeah.
So I want it to be 100% to be full. I don't want you to use percentage. I don't want you to use what pixels. There are what I told you there is some what value that we use for responsiveness, right? They are the mainly what you can have it three or two. It depends on depending on how you think about it. We have auto, right?
Yeah, a fraction.
Yeah, we have auto, we have fraction, right? And we have
Yeah.
what minimum, maximum, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Well, so you can use that one. You don't need to be using what fixed unit like pixels. You
Mm.
understand? Maybe you don't really know exactly what is the weight of this container, and you go and use maybe let's say use 200 pixels. You see that there's a space left, right? Even though
Yeah.
all of them are equal, but there is space left. But I want all of them to fill the container to be equal,
And
but it
here
fill the
we can
container.
put auto.
Yes, you can put auto, right?
Mm.
That's why I told you auto is also a value, right?
I
When you
thought
say
maybe
auto,
here just you can put the number, that's all. Maybe
no,
auto.
no, you didn't,
You
no, not
can.
the number only. You can also use auto because when you say auto, you are telling it that each and every word container should have the same word column, and it will still fill because it when you say auto, the browser automatically calculate itself for you. You understand? Instead of you to put values, you don't put values. When you put auto, now when you are trying to squeeze it, you see that it will still be inside the container, no matter how you squeeze it. You understand? So the auto is good in terms of what? When you shrink it, you grow it, is the same. It still feel in the container, right?
Mm. Yeah.
And one fraction is too good, but in terms of when you are growing, it's good there. One fraction. You see, it's also nice,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
And this situation is also nice. But most this fraction also is better when you are trying to increase the width so that the width will increase or it will grow and the size will still be equal. You understand?
Yeah.
But I told you have three things. You can use the auto, you can use the fraction, and you can use what? Minimum, max, min, max, right? Min, max,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And the min, max is what? The minimum value you put when you squeeze it like this. How many value do you want to be what? To be? Maybe 80 pixels, right? You see
Yeah.
80 pixels. And you bring comma and you say, what about if I make it bigger? What value do I want? What value do I want? Maybe I can say also one fraction. You understand? So nowadays we have three columns with what? This value, minimum value, a minimum maximum value. So here it tells that this 80 pixels, it's when it is very smaller at 80 pixels, it shouldn't what? Shrink. You understand? You are giving it what? A size that a limit size. So this 80 pixels, like minimum size, it should be 80. And the maximum should what? Grow. And so this one fraction will grow to up to infinity. Whatever grow it's still going to be with the same size. But when it is smaller, it's not going to be smaller than 80. It's going to be fixed 80 pixels. You understand? So if I still going to what? Compress it, when it reach 60, when it reach 80 pixels, because it is the minimum value we set, it will start what? To go out of the box. You understand?
Mm.
Because all this column has achieved its 80 pixels. So it cannot go minimum again because we said minimum to be 80 pixels. It cannot go lower than 80 pixels. So it has to go out of the box. You see it's going out, right? But in terms of but when it is maximum, we said it's one fraction. When I'm to expand it, it will still continue to expand. It wouldn't go out of the box. It would still continue to expand no matter how I expanded it because that one fraction represent what? Infinity. One fraction of the container. It will still be inside the container. So the best option, if you want them to be equal, you don't want to face maybe this one will be shrinking at this and this one will not be shrinking. You just use what? The auto, right? You say auto. So this auto, the computer will calculate each width for you. So even if I shrink it, it's still there. It will not go out of the container. And if I were to try to increase it, it still would work fine. So we have three values that is important. Either use auto or one fraction or min-max, right? Use min-max. So put this into your mind. So we have what? Three columns. Let's use the auto like this. So we have achieved our three columns now, right? This one
Yeah.
we've done it before. I'm just repeating it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Then what next? We want what? If you want, how many color rows do you want?
Rows.
Rows. Here we have it shows because of the numbers we have what? Two rows. And the reason why it is two rows because the divs are six, but you said you want three columns. Definitely, the three columns cannot, all these numbers cannot come and continue here. It has to come down, right? That's why we
Oh,
have two columns. Come again?
we will have two rows.
Okay, yeah, we have two rows now, right? But the two rows doesn't mean that it is because of because we didn't add any row now, right? But the row comes because all the figures, I mean 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These 4, 5, 6 cannot continue on the first line, right?
Yeah.
See what I'm talking about? Because we said we want three what columns. So that's why we have three columns. So the browser will automatically what put those that cannot go continue down. We put it down here for you. Hope you understand now.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that we have two rows. When you are going to imagine it as now normally we have one row, right? But
Yeah.
because we said we want what? Three columns, that is why those remaining which cannot continue with those here. If these four try to continue here, it means that we have four columns, which we didn't set it. We set three columns. So imagine here I set four columns. See what happened. You see the four comes here,
Mm.
right? And the remaining goes down. The remaining will automatically go down because it doesn't have any space to enter because we said we want four columns. So the machine gives us four columns. So it doesn't care whether these one are there or not. It just try to give you the four columns that you said you wanted. So those remaining will push it down. You
Mm.
understand?
Yeah.
So now in your mind, as it sits now, we know that we have one what? One row. You understand? It's just that because this one cannot go into the what? In this line to have a lot of columns, that's why it pushes it down. So let me make it three columns. So now if you come here and say you want to have grid what? The same name but with these changes. Grid template.
Mhm.
Okay. So now grid template rows, what we look at? We look at the heights. Right?
Yeah.
So how many rows do you want? We already have here. We can say we can write two. If you
Two.
write, it's going to be the same thing, right?
Mm.
But even if you wrote the two, you have to give the size for each what row because the row has what a height. So if I add anything here, if for instance, normally it's also set to auto. I understand.
Mm.
It's also set to auto, right? So for instance, if the height, if I say I want to have a height of 200 pixels, you see that the first row will have the heights.
Mm.
You understand? And then if I say this second row, I want to also to have what? Maybe 300 pixels. You see, it also has 300 pixels.
Mm.
You see how it works now.
Yeah.
So this is what we've done before. I'm just repeating it. This one we've done it. So here, when we look at here, we can say we have three columns, two rows, right?
Yeah.
Three columns, two rows. Okay. So let me just clear these ones. I don't need it. And then just leave this one for you now. Okay, because it will help us in doing whatever we want to do in the next lecture. So now these are what we did. We did all of them, and then we did the gaps, right? The gaps, you
Mm.
already know the gaps, which is the is in between them. So here, if I come here and say that one gap, if I see, what about if I say gap only, what does it mean?
When you say gap, you just
Yeah.
try to put all the values together.
Okay. So what you have to explain to me. We have what?
Okay.
Column gaps. We have
Yeah,
row gaps.
instead of maybe using grid template rows and columns, you will just choose to just use gap.
Okay, 1 minute. Let me show you. Look at
No, no,
this.
no, no, no. This thing, I, it means like the height and the weight, the size.
Okay. Just see the column. Look at the. You have to mention the name. And sometimes it's very important. For instance, if you say column gaps, you know this column, right? And the gap of the column. Row gap is the gap of the rows. That is simple. You understand? So if I say column gap, I mean I want the column gap. If I say row gap, I want the row gap, right? But if I say only gap, it means I want both, either one of them, right? So I would decide to put, if I put two values, that two values represent these two. If I put one value, that one value represent both of them again, right? So that's what we did. So the property is very important. The name is in simple. I don't know why you keep on forgetting about the names. The thing is simple. Columns, rows. When you look at it, you say grid template, what? Columns. Grid template, what? Rows. Right? And when you want gap, we say column gap. When you want row, we say row gap. But if you want a shorthand or shortcut, we say gap. Right?
Yeah,
Okay. So you see gap here, and then maybe you can apply maybe if you want them to be equal, both horizontal and vertical, or column gap and row gap should be equal, we can just give it one value and say we want them to be 10 pixels. Understand? So column gap at 10, row gap is at 10, right?
yeah,
Okay, so this is what we've done before. Okay, okay, so that is what we've done here. We've done all of this. And then we done align item which way we want it to justify center, uh, justify what content, middle, center. We've done all of this. We are just moving to the grid items. So these are the grid items I want you to look at. When we talk about the grid item, we are looking at the children, right? We are looking at the children. What are the children? The children are, so that's why I put names and I put colors so that you can see those children's. Right? So when I look at this box, I mean, I'm talking about child one, this child two, this child three. So you notice, so sometimes I can say the red color, it means I'm talking about the what, this child one, or what, green color. So that's why I put all of the colors to differentiate and for you to understand it. Okay?
okay.
Okay. So now, what is grid items? As I told you, grid container contains one or more grid items, right? It's clear.
Mm.
All direct child elements of a grid container automatically become grid items, right? Then below is a grid container with what? 5 grid items. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That means 5 children or 5 grid items. Okay, now you've understood it. So let's continue. So when you are looking at the grid items, we have some properties that we can talk about. So whatever we apply now, we are targeting each and every one. If I'm talking about grid item one, I'm talking about only this thing. Those others is not affected. If I'm talking about this one, it's only this one. So that's why here you see me, I added what? Item 1, background color red. So if I apply something here, it will affect only what? This one, right? Okay. So let me put it this way for you to understand it quickly. Let me use our live server because I want you to see it clearly. Okay. Okay, so I put them side by side. I'll put them side by side so that you see what this one is doing. And then I'll put our VS Code also side by side. We'll see what all our code are doing. Right? Okay. So what are we going to do? Look at it clearly. Let's go inside our W3 schools. So now, a grid item, right? I'm talking about what? Item can span over multiple columns or rows. Look at this word. It's very important. A grid item can span over multiple columns or rows. What does it mean? It means that this one word item can span multiple columns or rows. What this one, when you talk about span, I hope you know the span element.
Yeah.
You know how we use it before.
Yeah.
So we have div, we have span, right? And
Yeah.
div is a what? Is a block element, which is what? Which is vertical. And then span is what? Horizontal, which is inline elements. How will you remember all this?
Yeah.
Because this one is very important. If you remember the span, it will help you to understand this. And the span, when I talk about span, this one is my first element. When I add a span, it will be in a horizontal line, in line.
Mm.
So that's why you see this one can span. So this one can span, it can move or can increase each what? Each column to expand to come here. Right? So if this one move each size and add this column to it to achieve 2 columns of it, this green will also shift. How do you understand? So that's why they are talking about. Or this one can also move. We are talking about a row. So this one can also move down. It can expand each size and come down so that it will shift this forward down. You understand? So that's what it's talking about here. A grid item, that is what? Let's say this one. This number 1 is a grid item. Can span over multiple columns or rows. So this one can take a space of this or this. It can take all this space. It can stretch itself and fill the space. So these 2 and 3 can move down. Okay, so let's continue. We can specify where to start. Look at the word start. Where to start and end. And we can specify where to start and end a grid item by using the following properties. So this property that you see is just trying to tell you that this thing, we can expand this to extend itself in this column, or we can expand this to fill this position as in a row. Right? Because when we talk about column is what? We are looking at normal, the column is like this, but the size is like this, the width. And when we talk about the rows are like this, horizontal like this, but each height is like this. So let's see. So how can we make a column to start and end? So we have a property which is called grid column start, grid, column end. Look at this. This is important. Grid column start, grid column end. So what does it mean? You can specify, or it specifies on which column line the grid item will stand or will start. And then this what column line, this specify on which column line the grid item will end. So it is start, end, start, end. So here it means this start, end. So here, if you start 1, the end of the div is what? 3 here, right? But if you want this one to expand, to have 3 columns, you can stretch this to fill this 2, fill this 3, and then these 2 and 3 will move down. So we have only red lines here, fill this place. So it means that this one item move from start 1 up to the end here in a column width, right? Okay, so that's what we're talking about here. And when we are also talking about the rows, we also have what? Grid row and grid what? A grid row start and grid row end. That the reverse, right? Because we are talking about columns and rows. How you are seeing it, right?
Yeah.
And then here it talk about this grid column start, grid column row end, and the shortcut is what? Grid column. Instead of using writing grid column start, grid column end, you can just write grid column, and then you specify the start and the end, right?
Yeah.
And the same apply to also the rows. We have a shortcut grid row. You specify grid row start, grid row end. Okay, so if I want you to see the what, I already showed you the last time before, but let me also show you so that you can see it clearly when I'm talking about that grid lines. So when you talk about here, it says the lines between the columns in a grid are called what? Column lines, and the lines between the rows in a grid are called row lines. And then we can just refer to them as line numbers, right? Line numbers mean when placing a grid item in a grid container, right? So if you have a number, as we did here before, like a number, and you want to take this and put it somewhere. So that is what he's talking about here. If we call it what? Line, we can call it line number when placing a grid item in a grid container. So how can we see these column lines or row lines? I showed you before the last session. I showed you before, so let me show it again. So here, as I told you, you have to go to developer tools. You right click and go to inspect, right? When you go there, then you see what you can see this at the CSS. I mean at the styles, you can see this. So here when you toggle this one, grid lanes overlay, it will show inside here. So when I click here, it shows me this extend grid lines and show area names, right? And this one, the show tracks size. If I want them to show, I can also toggle this. So I'll click here to show all of them. So I can click here and you see all those there. But for this this track sizes here, 184, 180, because we set it to auto, you see all the width are equal, right? You see all the width are equal because we set it to auto, right? But for now, let me hide this because we are not dealing with these things. So let me just click this to take it out. What we are dealing with is the what? The column lines. You see this line, right? So these are the lines, show the area names and these extended grid lines. So that's what we are seeing here. Okay, so just visualize correctly for me. Okay, so if I'll do like this, so that you can just, I want you to see it clearly. And then here, even here, I can increase this thing to be maybe 40, right? So that it should be easier for so that you see it clearly, right? So just make sure you look at these numbers. These are the grid lines, the lines. So it depends on whether it is column lines or what, row lines. So these start from 1, 2, 3, 4, right?
Yeah.
So these are the column. These are for columns, right? Although you are moving this way, but don't look at it this way. Always look at this way. Columns, 3 columns. But the side or the width is what we are looking at now, because it is the item that we are targeting. We already achieved our columns here. Now we are targeting the item inside. This is one. This is what item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4, item 5, item 6. So that's what we are looking at now. Okay. So you see the lines. This is for the rows. This is for the columns, and this is for the rows. 1, 2, 3. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's play along. Okay, since you've understood this, let's play along. So assuming that we are dealing with let's say we are picking item 1. Here, where is item 1? This, right? The red color.
Mm.
So this is item 1. So I'll come here. So when we talk about item, I'm not talking about container now. Now I'm talking about the item. So I have to be at the item, right? Are you following?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, so now I'm at the item 1 because this is the one. That's why I put
Mm.
a color for you to understand, to see it clearly,
Yeah.
right? So I said grid column start, grid column end. So looking at here, so if you don't want it to, that's why they brought all these grid lines for it to
Mm.
guide you, because sometimes it's confusing. You understand? So whenever you are going to deal with these grid items, it's better, or it will be easier for you to come here and toggle or put this thing in. This thing. Make sure this one is what ticked. But if it is not ticked, if I untick it, you see it is gone. The line is gone. So sometimes you don't normally see what you are doing. So if you want to exactly see the lines, come and click here and it will show you the lines. So now you can visualize what you are doing. So you can know that this number 1 item is here. 1, 2. So it start at 1 and it end at 2.
Mm.
Right? Okay. So look at this. So here, if you want this number 1 to extend itself to come at 3. So what do you have to achieve? We can say, we can give it this thing. Grid column start 1, grid column end 3. Right? So
Mm.
how? Look at, I see grid, but I'm talking about columns now, not rows,
Mm.
right? So I
Yeah.
said grid column start, and I see 1. This is 1. Start here, 1. I select 1. Then I come down. Where does it end? Where does this 1 end in terms of this column? This column. Then I said grid column end. Then I said I want you to end at 3. Because I toggle this 1, 2, 3, I can now know where it will end, right?
Mm.
So if I say 1, it start 1 and it will end 3. So I know it is here. So this red color will fill this position and it will push this 2 here. The 3 will
Mm.
come down, right? So because I'm
Mm.
targeting only the 1, this 1 item. So I say 3. Then if I run it, you see that this one has moved and it continue to here,
Mm.
right? So I've start 1 and end 3. So column start 1, column at end 3. So it's always, you have to note that whenever you have a number 1 and the last number, if you subtract both of them, you see that you have what? 2. You have 2 columns.
Mm.
You understand? So if I say 3 minus 1 is 2, meaning I have 2 columns. Right? So that means that 1 fill 2 columns.
Mm.
You understand? So if I want this one to fill all these three columns, what should I do? I have to make it 4. 1 to 4. So I can just go here and see 1 to 4. Start 1 and end at 4. So if I save it, you see that it filled all the 3 columns. Because if I subtract 4 from 1, what do I have? 3, meaning I have filled all the 3 columns. Do you understand? And then we are still on the item 1. That is this one, item 1. Okay, so similarly, it's the same thing as if you want to do the row. So let me just make it the 3. Let me leave it as 3 so that we have the 2 here. Or maybe let me just leave it as it's where maybe. Okay, I can leave it 2. So see that if I say 1, 2, 1, 2 is still at the same position, right? I say start 1 and end 2. This 1, this is 2. So that's why these numbers are very important because it guides you to know where exactly these boxes are going. Because if you said 1, 2, if they're wearing this 1 and 2, you think that maybe this one will go here, right?
Yeah.
So that's why these lines are very important, just to guide you where these boxes are going to be. Okay, so this for the row. So maybe I think it's better. Let me see if they have another example. Okay. Okay. So I think the same thing, what we did. And here is, they say 3, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So here is the from 1 to 3. Okay. So this is what we are achieved. And there's another one, which is also what? The shortcut, as I told you, right?
Mm.
I told you we have the shortcut, and it also give you the same thing. So instead of me writing grid column start, grid column end, I can clear all this, and then come down and just write just grid column, and then now I can specify both the first and the end, right? And
Mm.
then I'll separate them with what? With the forward slash. So I'll say start column 1 forward slash and end at what? 3. So if I save it, it will be the same, give me the same thing,
Mm.
right? So this 1 represent this column start, this 1, and this 3 represent column end, right? And
Yeah.
there is another what? Another value that we have, we can say span. So the start is 1 and the end will be span. I can say span 2. So what does that span means? It means that take this number 1, the first one, and span it twice. As you do the meaning of span, right? As I just explained. So it has what? To span this twice. Means that if, for instance, let me just make it normal as it was. So it was like this, right? And then I'm targeting this one. So if I say this column starts 1, I wrote 1, and I bring my forward slash, and then I'm going to look at column end. Where do I want this one to end? 2, 3, 4, right? So which one I want you to end? I can see that span this number one twice. Span means double this. It just span means that do this same thing the number of times. It's just like repeat, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Just like repeat, that extend yourself or be in line, as we know that span is in line. So be in line. So it duplicate this, go here. So it will be two times. If it comes here, it will be three times. So we can say span three or span two. So here, instead of me just write maybe three to just come here at the three, I can say span two. So when I say span two, it will come here at the same three position, third position. So if I save it, you see that it is the same thing. The one is still at the third position, but it's what? Span. So it look at the one which start here, number one, and then span it here. Right. So if you don't, you think this one will confuse you, you can just use that numbers, the three, and just put three there. It will work the same thing.
Mm.
You understand? Maybe you might be confused with the span, but it's easier. I just trying to tell that if you start with one, span it. So it will span the number of times you want it to span. If it is one, it span it and come here. That means what? It spans at twice of it of the one. If it's thrice, span it thrice of this. So here you will not be thinking about these numbers. You understand? Assuming the numbers are not there, that span will help you to know where this one will end. You understand? So assuming here there is no numbers. So if I'll check this and I don't see any number and I want this one to fill this position. I'll just come here and say, I want you to span how many? So I look at here, this is one, this is two, and this is three. So I just say span three. Then I'll save it. And you see that it fills all the place. You understand? So even this one will be
Mm.
easier for you to notice the numbers because you know that you have three columns. And when you start one, two, three. So it ends at what span of three. So you just see start from one and span three. So that is for the columns, right? So we can look at the rows one, right? So which one should we use for the rows? Let's use the number two one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we go to the two, which is the green, right? So we are looking at there. Here we say grid column, and now we are going to say grid row, right?
Mm.
Grid row starts. And then we are targeting the number two, right? Or if you don't want, maybe it will
Yeah.
confuse you. Let's make it this way. I'll just use the same thing on the number one so that it will stick in your mind because it might confuse you. Let's see we finish with this, right? We're going to target the same number, which is the red one. But in this case, not columns. We are going to deal with what? Rows, right?
Mm.
Grid row starts. So where does it start? One. So the row is one. We normally move down. So in order for us to achieve a lot of what this kind of thing, you know that when we are moving down, there's not we don't have a lot of space in the container, right?
Mm. Yeah.
So what do? We add something to the container. What should we add to the container? I told you the last time. If you don't
Tutor.
have any, if you don't have any vertical space, we add something to the container to have a lot of what? Space. So what do we add to the container? A height. That height. add height. Maybe I can say I want 60 VH, right? So you see that I have a height now. The container has height. Understand? Okay. So we come here and say we are targeting the number one, which we say grid row start. And then we say start at 1, and then grid row end, grid row end. Where do you want us to end it? We start 1. So here is 1. Here is 2. Right? 3, 4 as it goes. So how do you want us to? Where do you want us to end? Okay, let's say we want it to end at 2. Right? So when we increase 1, 2, I just okay. So let me remove the height for now. Okay. Okay. Let me bring the. So if I say 2, you see that it stay there, the same position, right? Why? Because I'm still in
Yeah.
the same position. So let me bring the grid line so that you can see. This is 1 and this is 2, right? So I say grid row start
Yeah.
1 and end 2. So it's still in the same position.
Mm.
But look at, if I want it to come at 3, so look at when I say 3 and I run it, you see 1, 2, 3. So it comes at 3, right? So we are moving this one and we are targeting the red one. Come here. So that's what it starts and it ends, right? And if you want to use the shortcut, you can also say the same thing as we did before. We can say like this, grid row. You can bring grid row only, and then we apply the first what? The start is 1, and then the end is 3. And then we save it, we see you achieve the same thing. I hope you understand now. So we have what? Grid column starts, grid column end. And we have what? Grid row start, grid row end. And these are the shortcuts. So that is what they showed you here. You see the span here. We span this twice. And then the rows, row start, row end. So here we said the row start 1 to 3. So it has 1, 3. Understand? And we can also have the shortcuts, which is this one. 1, span 2. So it goes down twice. Right? So here they apply 2 of them. You see down here. You see here. So it's the same thing as we did the same here. So here they apply this. So we can also apply this. We have the grid column, which is the start of the column is 1 and span 3. We can make it 2. We can make it 2, right? Span 2. And this here we can say either we can leave it like that, or we can also do the same thing as span of what? 2. So you can see that this one will have 1 up to 3. This one have 1 up to 3. So we have the red color will fill all this size. So if I run this, you see that this color has filled all this position. And then it will start to push all these things down. So that is what we achieve here. And this one is the same question that we solved the last time. And drag and drop the correct property and value to turn the container into grid layout. What's the answer? Very simple. Drag and drop the correct property and value to turn the container into a grid layout.
Display grid.
grid. Right, so that is a simple answer for this question. Okay, so that is what we did about the grid items, which with respect to the sizing and the span, right? So these are just the explanation of all those we are going to learn. They're just the explanation. So while we are doing it, it will just explain itself. Okay, so let's continue. We are going to the grid item name, right? Now we are going to look at the name. We are giving a name to the items. So here we were looking at it as what? 1, 2, 3. And here we are going to give it a name now. I understand. So let me just close this. Right? Or maybe I should leave it. Let me leave it so for you to see it clearly. It's better for you to see it clearly. Maybe just like this. Okay. So now I think it's better I clear this, or maybe I should just leave it. Right? Or maybe, yeah, I should just comment it so that it should not be working. Okay. All right. Okay, so what's next? We have naming grid item with grid area. Naming grid item with grid area. So we are going to name the item itself with what? Grid area. So what does it mean? The CSS grid template what? Area is a grid container property. This property that we see, grid template area. So now we have something we call, as I told you, grid template columns, grid template what? Rows. What we did here. This thing, grid template columns, grid template rows. Both of them combine to have what? Area. How you know you did basic mathematics. The area of what? Maybe this in a box or rectangle, length and breadth, right?
Yeah.
So it is similar with this one. We have what? The columns and we have the rows. And then to have columns and rows will what? Will sum up to give you an area. You understand? So that is how it looks here. That this is the length and this is the what? The breadth. Or here we can see height. So what? Length times the height will give you what? The area. Right? So that is how it works here in the same thing. So that's why we have grid template column, grid template rows. And then when we look at the area, we see grid template area. So we see grid template area. It's grid template areas. Right? So that's why we are going to use to name the grid item. And that property is for the container. So that's why it is there. Right? Grid template area is a grid container property. And it specifies areas within the grid layout. Areas within the grid layout. Right? You can name grid item by using CSS grid area. So if you are talking about the grid item, we can just name it. So here, look at the thing is now clear. This grid template area is for the container if you are going to name it. And if you are going to name the item, we use what? Grid area. You understand? So this one, grid template areas, is for the container. This container, we can put it here. We can put it here. And then if we are talking about the item itself, this item itself, maybe 1, 2, 3. So let's talk about 1. We are talking about this number 1. We see grid what? Grid area. Grid area. You understand? So those two things are used to name these items. So that's why it starts with naming grid items with what? Grid area. Right? So you can name the grid item by using the CSS grid area property and then reference to the name in the grid template areas. And so we are using this and this. So we are doing this and this, referencing this. When we do this, we reference it with this. So always that's why I just wrote here grid area and here grid template area. So this is for the container and this is for the item, each item. Okay, so let's continue. Each area is defined within apostrophes. The name grid item in each area is defined inside apostrophe. It's separated by space. What does it mean? So for instance, let item 1, you're talking about this item 1, the red one. Let me clear all this so that we have a lot of space for you to see. So we're talking about this item 1, the red one. This is the container, as I told you, and this is the item 1, right? So what is the name of the item? So the item here, I say give it a name, which is grid area. Maybe I see my header. I can give it any name, right? So let's write it this way. I come here and say grid area and I give it a name. What name? Maybe I can say this item 1, right? So I can say my item 1. I can say my item 1. I give it a name here, right? So this is item 1. So now the red box is called item 1, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's look. And then we go into the container. You see, we go back to the container and we set the grid template area. See, I'll go back to the container here. This is the container and set grid template area. And then I add what? Apostrophe like this. And then now I can write my name. What is the name of this item that I set? What was it here? Right?
Mm.
My item 1, right? So I can come here and write the same name. I said my item, it should match the same thing. Come here and write the same thing with the apostrophe and said my item 1. What am I telling the browser that? So this one is what the first column, right? Because it is an area, it represents what the first column. So I can give, if I want 2 columns, I can give a space. It's just similar like the way we normally write auto, right? But this one we are using name. That's why it's a naming grid. So I said name my item. So I can give a space and write another one. So now I have 2 columns. So this one will have 2 columns. So if I save it and run it, this one will fill this, will fill these 2 columns. Right? So if I save it, you see that this one has filled these 2 columns.
Yeah.
And you see the name, my item 1. Right? The name of the box, my item 1. This is what we set here. The grid area as my item 1. So the red one takes my item 1 and you see my item 1. And I said I want my item 1 to have 2 columns. I come here, grid template areas. I say first what? Column, second column. So it has what? First column, second column. So if I want 3 column, I just have to give a space inside and repeat it again and then run it. Here I have 3 columns. Right? So it is easy. I just want you first of all target the item that you want, which is this, and give it the item area, say grid area, and give it the name. And then when you come here, you said you want these columns. So this one is for the columns that we did. You can also do the same thing for the rows. right? So we are going to be still inside this what? These things. So we have what? 3 columns, right? So you can come here and say, look, it's hard. Look at the apostrophe. You can give it 1 apostrophe or 2. It doesn't matter. Understand? So look at here. They said the grid item, they are targeting this number 1. Grid item 1 is, they give it a name. They say my header, right? And then when they go inside the container, they said create template areas, my header 5 times. Or is it 6 times or 5 times? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So you see that it occupy all the columns. So it has 5 columns. So when you look at the down one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my header, 5 times. So it means that repeat this, my header, as the name here, 5 times. So that's the column, right? So if you move down, the same thing, and here we say that we can also use a period, meaning full stop, to refer to a what? A grid item with no name. So here, example, it gives you an example. So this, my header span 3 columns in 5 columns grid layout. So here it says that this is my header. And here normally we have what? 5 columns. 1, 2, 3. And that dot here represent what? Distance. The same thing as this. So we have 5 columns, but because we call it an empty, it is empty now. But it is considered as it is 5. I hope you understand.
Yeah.
Look at this is 1, 2, 3, and the dots 4, 5. We have 2 dots, which is 4, 5. So here, when you calculate this number 1, as it is referred here, it will normally give you these 3 what? These 3 columns, as we name it. But this one would what? Would also be there, but it is what? It is empty, but it represents as 5 columns. You understand? Unless you give it a name and then you clear this and give, for instance, if I have to open this, and this dot, I say I want to what? Clear this dot and put this name there. When I run it, you see that now this one has what? 4 columns. And if I remove the dots, if I added what? My header again, I run it, you see that this one has occupied all what? These columns. You understand? So you can decide to put dot there, dot, instead of put dot there. So it will still maintain 5 columns, but the one you set or the one you wrote the names itself would only show here. But it will still know that you have what? 5 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is how this one also works. And then the rows. So to define 2 rows, 2 areas, so define the second row inside another set of apostrophe. Right? So it's the same thing. It's just following the rule, the main what? Rules. So here is this one is also what? Stable, the same name. But here now we have what? First row, second row. With how many what? How many columns? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. With 5 columns. So here we have 5 columns, 2 rows. How you understand?
Yeah.
So here look at, we have what? This how many columns? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? So when you go here, how many columns do you have? Because of the dots added, it's also a column. So you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? And then again, when you come down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? So here it tells you that when you try to like copy like this is our first row, this is our second row. So it's like this, we are using a text to represent these things. Meanwhile, this is a box, but this one, when you come here, it's like you are using a text to represent this. I hope you understand. So now here, if you come here, if you want to achieve something like that, you already have this full as the number one, right here. So we have 1, 2, 3. You have 3 columns. So if you want to achieve 2 rows on the same this, you can come down like this. Make sure you go like this, and you write the same. So you can copy this, the same thing, and then you bring apostrophe, another apostrophe, and bring 3 of them. So now you have, since they are all the 2 are inside apostrophe differently, this one represent the first what row, and this one will represent the second row. So when I run it, look at what will happen. What happened? It's still there, but let me see, maybe I didn't add another, let me see what. Okay. Confirm. Read my header. Yeah, it's the same thing. I think you see it's okay. The 5. Okay. So how many of these do I have? I have 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I made it. Okay, let's make it 2. So it will be clear for us to see. Right? What happened? So I can see it clearly here. We have 1 up to 3 for the column, and then for the row we have what? 1, 2, which is row. And then 1, 2, which is what? The column. I hope you can see it clearly.
Yeah.
Right? So how many? The 1 will represent this one, first column, second column. First column, second column. In the row, first row, second row. First row, second row. Meaning we have the 1 represent 2 by 2. 2 column, 2 rows. Right? So what about if I'm going to add another, row, you can just come here and say, I want to add another row. So how many row? 1, 2, 3. If I run it, how many row? 1, 2, 3. Right? So we have what? 3 rows, 2 columns. 3 rows, 1, 2, 3. And then the column are this way. The column are this column, second column, first column, second column. So that's how this also works. It's very tricky, but if you sit down and look at it, it's very easy. First of all, you have to decide the grid area and give it a name. This look like an ID. You remember that when we talking about the class, we added dot container, right? As the class. Like this, when we are targeting something like this. For instance, if we are going to target this class, we say we target this container, and we come to the CSS, and then we put a dot. We put a dot and put this. So this is targeting what? Targeting this. It's the same thing as here. This grid area, this name that we give is targeting these names. So it's following those names. So if you have this grid and you come here, like we are saying, give me an area. So it tells you that in the container, where should I position those areas? Then you say, first of all, give me first column, and then give me another what? Second column. And then give me 3 rows. So you are taking this thing, you are placing them inside a container. You understand? I hope you understand now. Or
Yeah.
like this, let me make it easy for you to see. For instance, you have this like a box, this box. This is box, right? So this is our container, right? And then you are taking this the red item 1, this red item 1, right? And then when you take that red item 1, you give it a name here. You say this is an area. So this box, this is a container, this is a container, right? And maybe this is a ball. Let's say this, we have this area, my item. That item is a ball, right? And this ball is what? The red color, right? So this ball is a red color. And you say, take this red color and put them inside this container, right? So this container has what? Some columns, right? So for instance, this item has 3 columns like this. Just 3 columns like this. 1, 2, 3. Just 3 columns. And you say, take those what? Balls or items and put them and have what? 2 columns. So I take the red one, and say this what? Item 1, taking the first column, the same item 1, also take the second column, right? And then you come here, you say, okay, I get 2 columns. That's the 2 columns. For the rows, give me 3 rows. And I say, okay, you said you want 3 rows. Okay. Then here is the row 1. Here is the row 2. And here is the third row. So this one will affect this row 1, 2, and the row 3 here. Right? And then here is also why, because it is a row, it affects this. So you have all this section will be for the number 1. We are placing all this inside a container, and all this section will be for the red one, the box, this red box.
Mm.
You understand? So you can just shade this section and say this section are all for the red. You understand? So that's a similar way we did here. So all those which are items which are there, we will push out to different positions. You understand? So you see this one has occupied all this position, and if you push this one to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How we understand? And don't forget that it's always, if you toggle this item, grid item, the names, it will always give you the name. You see the name, my item 1. You see this is the name that you wrote. And this is the name here. Representing 1, the what? The red color here. You understand? So that's why the grid item is important. So here, imagine you are designing a website and you have something like that. Maybe you want to achieve some layout like this, where you want here to be an image. You want to have a big image here. In this place, you want to put some call to action here. So that's where it is important. Okay. I hope everything is clear.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So if you understand that one, it is very easy. You see here is the same thing. Look at how they did it. Right? So just look at here how they managed to do this. Very simple. So you can even achieve this kind of layout easily. If you want to look at it, how do you do it? Just look at it. They have an item up to what? 5 items, right? And each item they give it a name. Item 1 is header, item 2 menu, item 3 is main, item 4 is right, item 5 is footer, right? So they just go and look at they target the container, right? And they add grid template areas. First of all, they give a name. What is the name for each and every word contain item here? Item 1, they give it a name, grid area, and they say header. Item 2, so let's make it same thing. Item 1, we go to our code and see where is item 1. Item 1, the grid is named this. So I'll make sure I clear this, right? So that's, I'll make it easier for us to understand. So here is item 1. We give it a grid area of what? Header, right? What about item 2? Item 2 grid area is what? Menu. Item 2 grid area is what? Menu. Called menu. That's the name, right? So here I give the name as header. I give a name as menu. And item 3 is what? Item 3 is main. Item 3 is main. So grid area is main, right? Item 4, what's the name? Item 4 is right. Item 4, the grid area is right. In item 5, the grid area of item 5 is what? Is what? Footer. Footer. So we can clean the item 6 that we don't need it. Right? So we can go here and say we don't need item 6. Right? So we don't need item 6. Right? Okay. Okay. Let me see. Okay. So now what again? Now we've set all the distance now. Now here we have this. Okay, let me finish remove this grid item for now. Okay. So now what do you have? Okay. So now we're talking with the grid template area. So all of them, all of this item has its name. This header, menu, main, right, footer, all of them has their names, right? So we come here. So this grid, it look like grid template column and grid template rows. That is how it looks. So let's apply those here. Look at. First of all, they said bring us your apostrophe, right? Then you ask yourself, which one do you want it to be the first line, the first column? Look at here, which one? They want the header to be in the column. And when you calculate the column that they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It means that they have 5 columns, right? It means that you have 5 columns, or depending on how many they write it. So here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So here they wrote 6 columns based on how you want it. So if we want, we can also say we want 5 columns. It depends on how we want it. We can come here and say the first one is what? The name is header. So you can put header here. Header, that's the first one. That means header is one, first column. You can add another word, column, header, meaning take second column, right? So when you see that the first red has taken 2 columns. First column, second column. So first column, second column. If I want to add another, I can add header again. Because I already have the name here. So I'm just what? Using this, I'm placing the name here in the container. So I'm taking this one, placing to inside those container. So if I add another column, it will have three. So this one will come here. So we have three. See that we have three columns. 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's continue. Maybe we can add up to 5. See 4. Add another one. See, now I have 5 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 columns, right? You see the header name is there. You see that it's saying header, meaning this header, which is the red. It's taking all these columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? So we have now 5 columns, 1 row. Only have 1 row here. So if you want to add another row, then we can, out of the apostrophe, you can come and add another apostrophe, meaning we are going to add different rows, right? We already achieved the columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 columns. Now we are dealing with rows. We are adding row, right? So you look at our item and say, this, we've used the header. Why don't we add menu here? So you look at the design and say, I want menu. This will have maybe 2, and this will have maybe another 1 again, right? So here you can have menu. So when I save it, okay, when I say menu and add another menu, maybe I want 2 menu because this is menu. I have another menu, right? Then I go and say, how many do I have? Then I want to fill this. I have main and right. So how many main and right do I have? 1, maybe 3, and this is 1. I can say main, and I can see another main again. Maybe because it is, okay, I can just leave this as 1 menu because we're dealing with 5, and then I can add rights, right? So when I see, we look at what we have. This menu is for which one? It's for this green, right? So that's why we have the, at the second row, right? And at the second row, we have main 3 times. This main appear 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And then the right appear 1 times. This is the right. So you see the names, menu, main, right. Now if I want another one, I can come down, right? And then say I want another menu again. Then I have main, maybe let's look at it. And then we have footer. So I can complete all with footer. So I can have footer, 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 and then footer. So we have 1 menu and then 4 footers, making it 5. So if I run, you see that I have what? I have this footer which fill here, and I have what? The menu which have 2 what? Which was one column, 2 rows. So you see that we have managed to fill all the section inside the container. So we place all these items. So it's like we are placing these items inside this container. I hope you understand.
Wow.
That's why I said this one will look very tricky. So if you don't sit down and look at it, it's simple when you understand it. It's very simple. Because especially when you toggle this 1, 2, 3, or these grid lines, and you are looking at visualize it like this, it's easier for you to know where to place all these items. So here, if you are going to follow it by columns, you see that you follow this, you have 1, 2, 3, then 4, and then you have 5. It's header, right, footer, making the 5th column. So you see that you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the row is 3. 1, 2, and then 3. So 1, 2, and 3. Right? So we have 5 columns, 3 rows. 5 columns, 3 rows. And this will help you to achieve something similar like this. Right? So it is very important in terms of what? Responsive design. Right? So I think the others are not difficult because this is align and this is order. They are not difficult, so I don't want to waste my time. Justify self, you just specify the align in the what? Horizontally, and this align self vertical alignment. We've done that. And this where you take, this is the shorthand, place self. So you take align self and you take justify self for this, both of this, right? And then you also can use what justify item in an item, align item to what to center the items. This justify self, it has the values auto, normal, stretch, start, left, center, and right. So this is a similar sample that they did here. We target the first item and they make justify self to right. So the first one, which is item 1, and they said right. So it comes right here. Right? And then here, item 6, which is this one, they make it what? Center. So that's why it is center. So it's normally centered. Looking at the box here, you see it's centered. And then the align self also look at things vertically, like the block direction, right? So we have normal, auto, stretch, start, and center. So the same thing, just that the name changes. So if you look at it, it normally look at like the justify content and like align items we did. But just that it depends on where or which property you are applying. So note that. So here you see that they apply it, align self to be start, this start here, and then the look at the item 6, which at the center. You see it's at the center. It's not all that difficult. So when you come to the item, the grid item order, the same thing, just take which number you are targeting. For instance, they said item 1, they are targeting item 1, which is this one, and then they bring it in the order of 3, which is here. We've done it before. But I said when the element was here, and they said they want to, the element here was 1. So they said they want to take it to what? To different level, right? So here, it starts here, goes and comes here. So that is the 3rd position, right? And then here they take the number 2 to the 6th position here. They take number what? Number 3 to the 1st position, which is here. And then the 4th to the 2nd here. And then the 5th to 4th, and then the 6th to the 5th position, which is here. So the order is just simple. Just make sure where you want the thing to go, right? So it's not something difficult. Just write order and put it where you want it to go. So for instance, the same thing, like when you come to our here, and you see that, oh, maybe this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this 4 is for the 10th. So this 4 is 10. So it's on the 10th. So if you say order, right, and we say we want it to move at 11, normally it cannot move because we already have this section there. You understand? But as usual, if they were to be equal, when you move this to 11 or different position, it will move. You understand? So just understand it easier in this way that, okay, this is the simplest way. 3, 4, 5, based on distance, targeting the items. So here I can change the position here to different, but I have to move the other item. Maybe I can say I want the item 1. I don't know whether, should I just remove it and I do it for you to see, or it's okay for you?
Okay.
You understand it?
Yeah.
Okay, because I just wanted to just remove this and then just place the name randomly for you to see where it moves. But since it's following the same number, you will just understand it easily. You understand? So I don't want to stress you with a lot of these properties. And I think it's okay, right? What is left for you is just to sit down and then look at it. It's not difficult. I understand. It's not difficult. So look at the grid 12 column layout. This grid 12 layouts. This is also a different topic. It's the same thing as we did. You understand? But you just need to sit down and read it and know exactly. Because the same thing, you see, grid column, grid row, span to, we all did this thing, the same thing. You understand? So the same thing. So this they do that repeat 12 and they add the column start one fraction. They can play along with all of those we did. You see here, the row that repeat 12 and the row they give us. So this one they have two columns because the period or the point mean also add a column, right? So they are all the same thing. I don't want you to be just read it. It's easier. You understand it easier. There's nothing to worry about. With the level of thing that I taught you, I don't think you have problem with just it's make time, sit down, and then you read it. It's the same thing. It's nothing difficult. Okay, I think I'll leave you for today, and then we are done for the grid, CSS grid. And what I want you to do now is look for this game. Since in the Flexbox we did the same thing, play with the game, but for now here, you can also look for this game. And this is for the grid. The other one we did was for the Flexbox. You understand? So this one is for the grid. So make sure you read it, apply all this. You see the grid column start, grid column start. Make sure you read it and then know how to apply and then achieve these ones. Right? So I'll leave you to you to go and look at it. Even if you don't see it or if you don't know it, you can search online and look at how it has been done, how it has been applied, and then you let me know. I want to see how you are able to achieve or to solve these problems from 1 up to 20. But if you can play this game and you understand it, then I think the grid tool will be easier for you. All right.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll see you on Monday, and then I think we have the other, which is almost like we've almost finished. I understand. So I think these are some simple things that we need to do because the media query is also important. These are hover effects. Sometimes you can also learn it. It's not something difficult. And then we look at the website optimization and then all these things, some of them we have done it, right? So I'll see you on Monday.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I will.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, before you go, are you there?
Yes.
Yeah, before you go, I forgot to mention, okay, this project, I think I'll sit down and look at the project that I'll give you because this is just simple thing that you need to do. Design a 3-section responsive website layout. 3-section, it could be similar with this one, the one we did like this one, like you understand. But instead of you doing that, I'll sit down or I'll look at the structure, which is similar to maybe the dashboard that we did the last time. And then I'll let you use your knowledge on CSS Flex and then the grid to combine both of them and then see if you can achieve something like this, because I want you to use it on dashboard. For instance, if you want dashboard websites, I think it will be easier for you. And something like this, the one we did the last time that I tried to show you. And so I just want you to look at some of the structure like this, and then design not the content inside, but the layout. So, but I'll leave you for now. I don't want you to just target this. I'll leave it when maybe we meet on Monday. I'll try to explain to you how you can do it, and then I'll let you do an example for it. Okay?
Okay.
So don't worry about this. On Monday, we shall talk about it.
Okay.
Okay, I'll see you on Monday, inshallah.
So,
Yeah.
bye.
Bye bye.